Greetings. Welcome back to another fabulous and action-packed episode of the Death, Taxes, and Sports Podcast. We're episode at 125, ladies and gentlemen. That is 125. I feel lucky today. I'm here with Mr. Ben Holloway. Looks like it'll be us until Mr. Tigney wakes up from her nap. It's like, no, she's doing her recording, doing all her amazing things. And Gary has family obligations, which we fully support. But Ben, we're going to be discussing a little bit men's and women's NCAA, that Shohei Ohtani sketchy situation. And, maybe we'll get to battles, but in a different sense. But Ben, how are you doing today?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Excited to talk some tournament, man. March is the best month of the year, baby.
Yeah, but you were away, and why were you away? Why were you gone? I'm lost.
Were you? Did you miss me? Is that what you're trying to say?
Ben. You're my sunshine. What more could a man ever wish for?
Yeah, it was my wife's cousin's wedding in England, so we made a little trip out of it. So we went to London for a couple days, went to Paris, climbed the Eiffel Tower. It was good. It was a good trip.
Nice.
Excited to be back. Excited to be back.
No doubt. Man, a lot of
vacations can't last forever, you know?
Exactly. You need a vacation from the vacation. Got it. Man, so NCAA tournament, man. You know, we got this NCAA's men's tournament. We're going to talk a little bit of surprises for the tournament, some of the biggest disappointments, and then we need to kind of reshuffle our Final Four because there were some unfortunate upsets. But hey, what can we do? But let's get right to it. Biggest surprise that really stood out to you, because for me, there definitely was one. But what say you, sir?
Yeah, we may have a similar one, but if we do, it's completely fine. North Carolina State, man, like it's. You got to respect what they've done. Of course, the ACC tournament, you win 5. They probably needed to win it to get in. They win 5 games in 5 days to make the big tournament. And now they've won 2 more. So they've won 7 games in the last 12 days. And that's incredible by itself. But here's what they did prior to that. Prior to the now 7-game winning streak, they had lost 4 in a row to end the regular season. And they're out of their last 9 regular season games, they lost 7. So you won 2 games out of your last 9 games, and you go from that to a 7-game winning streak into the Sweet 16. Like, sometimes it's very, very hard to explain, and you just have to appreciate when a team gets hot. Sometimes a team gets hot. So for me, that's a big surprise, and that's a pleasant surprise. You know, we like stories like that, you know, especially, you know, it's a good run for those kids, great experience. And, I'm happy for them. And that's, to me, as of right now, the biggest surprise.
Well, yeah, no doubt. And I think that when you're talking about a team that was literally in the bubble, they weren't even in the mix to even make the tournament. And the only way they were going to be able to do that is by being able to make a deep run. I even go a little bit further. I wouldn't be surprised if they made it to the Final Four. I mean, when you have when winning kind of permeates the whole entire university, where everyone's giving you high fives, everyone's saying good job, you feel really good about yourself. And when you're getting on the court at this point, records and what you've done in the past, it doesn't matter, right? It's about what's being done on the hardwood. And they have this one big guy whose name I cannot remember. You probably know who's his name, Ben, but once we look it up, tell me. This guy is a beast in the post, man. And you know what he's going to do. He's going to do that slow post-up game every single time, and then he's going to put low body. He's going to go for a layup. It's absolutely amazing. Let me know where you can find that guy.
Yeah, Burns.
Yes.
DJ Burns. That's the guy.
Yes.
DJ Burns.
Talk about a dude who is just a beast. But I actually have a different one. And for me, I'm going to go with Duke. Winning by 27.5 points per game through their first 2 games. I had said, even through text message, I really had thought James Madison was going to be able to pull an upset, right? Because that was a team with, I think, starting 4 or 5 seniors, won 32 games. I don't care what you have to say about the conference. 32 wins, still 32 wins. Look at FAU last year. Same thing. Seniors had, but unfortunately they didn't make it this year. But for me, it was against James Madison was the way that they attacked from beginning to end. And that was one of the things that I was concerned about was like, does this team have like that fight, like that dog in them? And they really surprised me. McCain really stepped up, made a couple big threes,
Mhm.
beating a very good James Madison U team.
Yeah, yeah, and the way it shakes out, it could be, if your Duke Blue Devils pull another upset and so does NC State, that's the Elite Eight matchup. Could be an all ACC Elite Eight matchup. Could be Duke versus NC State. NC
Yeah,
State's against Marquette, and of course your Duke Blue Devils against Houston. So that's
I will say this though.
I
I'll
think
say
that
this though.
Duke Houston game is going to be that's going to be
If
a good one. I think
if
a
if
real good
you
one.
had if Duke hadn't have been so dominant against these two teams, I probably wouldn't give them much of a chance against Houston. But Houston
Hmm.
looked very, very, very like they're very susceptible to playing down to competition at times. They got blown out against Iowa State. They struggled against a Texas A&M team that lost 15 games, and they could have easily lost that in overtime. They had a
Hmm.
13-point lead, maybe 3 minutes going into the second half, and then later in the second half, and they blew it, almost blew the game. If Duke can make shots at the very beginning, I give us a 50-50 chance to win that game.
Yeah, for sure. I heard something similar kind of. I think it was it was Jay Williams. He said a week ago I wouldn't have gave us more than like a 10% chance, and now I'm at about 50-50.
Yeah,
And that's
right.
pretty much exactly where you're at too, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah,
I
no
mean,
doubt, no doubt. But let's get right to this, man. What else you got? We got biggest disappointments. I'm curious to get your take on this one.
real quick, wanted to give a little bit of shout out, even though
Yeah,
they lost in the second round, especially James Madison got spanked by Duke. But still, when 12 seed beats a 5 seed, I feel like deserves a little bit of love. Grand Canyon over St. Mary's, who then
yeah.
almost gave Alabama a really tough game for a while. And then James Madison, of course, ran into a buzzsaw of Duke. But still, to get an NCAA tournament win as a 12 seed, I think that deserves a little bit of respect. But
Yeah.
disappointments, man. I'm going straight to Kansas,
Mm,
and I'm gonna it's worse than what you think. Now I'm not gonna bore you with too many numbers, but here we go. So the second round game against Gonzaga, they're up by 1 at halftime. Flip it to the second half. Early in the second half, they're up 49-48. That turns into 80-53. So a 32-5 run by Gonzaga.
and that game
32
was
to 5. Like that's insane. That's almost unexplainable. And I know we talked about it. Kansas is playing 7 or 8 guys. They have a lot of injuries and some
if that.
suspensions and all that. But still, man, to have a 1-point lead in the second half to then to 53, there's a 27-point difference. Like that, I'm sorry, that's still got to be a little bit disappointing. Like if you lose that game, let's say 81-75, or if it's a close, respectable game, completely fine. Gonzaga is a deeper team, got more guys, more healthy bodies. But to get obliterated like that, I'm sorry, I got to put that as a disappointment. I have to.
I mean, and this kind of ties into my biggest disappointment, and I got Kentucky for that one, but
Well,
I'll get
yeah.
on that one.
I
I'll get on
went
that
blue.
one next.
Oh yeah,
Hold on,
yeah,
I'll
yeah. I
get on
went
that
blue
one
red.
next.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
but Kansas doesn't disappoint. I was kind of, but it was against Gonzaga, right? So it's like
Mhm.
it's not like Gonzaga is like some scrubby team, but you got to give Self some credit for how he was able to finagle this whole thing and for them
Mhm.
to even get out of the first game because they could have lost that first game, but they
Yep.
were just a little bit better. They have no bench, none. And I think their starting lineup averages the most minutes per game on a per 40-minute basis. They ran out of gas, and
Yeah.
their best player isn't playing. That's 18 points, almost 19 points a game. You're already thin. Your guard's a little bit undersized. I gotta, I don't know. They did the
Cut him a
best they
little bit of
can, but
slack. A little bit of
yeah,
slack.
but I'm because it was to Gonzaga. You know what I'm saying? I give them a little bit. I give them a little bit, but I don't give Kentucky any credit at all for the way that they lost. And I think it's kind of what I think they're 1-4 in their last NCAA tournament games. Now, here's the thing: I think quality of losses, if you're a team like Kentucky, matters And the reason why I say that is because I'm going to give Kansas a little bit of grace by being blown out to a Gonzaga team, but I'm going to give Bissoff a little bit of credit, a little bit of grace because they won a title 2 years ago, and this team wasn't as good as they typically were. But like I've really got to be Kentucky, man. The way that they've lost, the way that they lose these games to lower quality competition, St. Peter's losing to this team. I don't know, man. I'm not saying you fire John Calipari, but I
I
don't know
mean,
who else you're gonna get that's better. But these type of losses keep pounding up. You got to make a move eventually.
yeah, it's a valid discussion, that's for sure. And it for the longest time that has not been a conversation to have, but now that conversation is should be prevalent. So they lost to the 15 seed 2 years ago, St. Peter's, who I believe didn't St. Peter's make the Final Four or the Elite Eight?
Elite Eight, the Elite Eight
Elite
almost
Eight,
made it to
right?
the Final Four.
Elite Eight, yeah. So, but still, lose to St. Peter's, a 15 seed, and this year lose to the 14 seed in, want to get it right, Oakland. Like, and let's be honest, what has he done at Kentucky in the tournament? He's made some Elite Eights, he's made some Final Fours, he's made like, but he got one ring. He's been at Kentucky for like I think it's 14 years.
I
He's
mean,
had,
you
he's had some stacked
that
squads, like
teams.
some really stacked squads. And to be honest, to only make two championship games, he lost one, won one, but to only make two,
He's an
that
Italian Doc Rivers.
it's hard for me to look at Calipari and be like, that you have achieved what you should underachieved. To me, you've had such talented rosters to have one championship, and I believe it. I had looked it up. Of course, now I forget. I forgot to write it down. But I think it's 14 years at Kentucky.
I mean,
And
I mean that first year was 2009. After Bill Cassidy got fired, and that's when they had John Wall and Eric Bledsoe, and that's when things got really excited. But I think he's the Italian Doc Rivers, in
yeah,
the sense
yeah,
of they're very similar. Won that one title, right? All this talent. They went 35-0 in 2015, right?
yep.
When Devin Booker coming off the bench and was still a lottery pick. Good God, the fact that they still didn't
Mhm.
win a national title with God, that team was filthy. And then to lose to
Mhm.
Wisconsin, I mean, ever since then, they continuously are getting the quality talent, but he's not doing much with it. And I think he needs to change his philosophy a little bit as far as he's recruiting. I think he needs to get a little bit more senior laden players, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, we're talking about a guy who I just looked it up in the NCAA tournament. His record is pretty impressive. It's 38-12. So that's 76% of the time his team wins. But at the same time,
Absolutely.
you haven't been to a final 2015, which is what, that's 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
So like, and you, it's not like your talent has gone down that much. Like you've had significant talent advantages in most of these games, and he's done well. I mean, we're not going to sit here and say he's fell flat on his face. I mean, 38-12 is a pretty damn good record, but to only have one championship and not make a Final Four in 10 years, like that's sorry, Neil. We live in what have you done for me lately?
I mean, they're still a 3 seed for God's sakes. I mean, they're still winning the majority of their SEC championship games or SEC games. They're continuously in the top three as far as preseason rankings. I don't know, but we could talk about them forever. Let's get next to these updated Final Four picks and including a national championship. I'm interested to see what your thoughts on this one because I kind of changed it up a little bit.
Yeah, so I actually UConn, as dominant as they have been, I actually got them in an upset. I only did one or two brackets thus far, but I'm going to go with the first one I did, updated. I'm going to go. My Final Four is Iowa State versus North Carolina, and Houston versus Gonzaga. And then I got Iowa State versus Houston, and Iowa State taking the chip.
Okay.
So I got two number one seeds, a 2 seed, and what's Gonzaga? 5? Yeah, 5 seed. So I got a 5 seed,
Okay.
2 1s, and a 2 seed.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go UConn, Bama, Gonzaga, and Duke.
UConn, Bama, Gonzaga, Duke. All right. So you got what? A 4, a 5,
A
yeah, a
one,
4.
and
You
then
got
a
you
four.
got two
Yeah.
fours, 2 4s, a 5, and a 1. Okay. All right.
Yeah. And I got UConn winning it all, man. I'm sticking with them. I think that they're even better than last year. I think their guard play is better than last year. And that dude in the post is just a beast. They go 9-10 deep. I just don't. Again, anything can happen, but yeah, I just think winning that conference tournament kind of gave them a little bit more of that feng shui, I guess you can say. That's what I'm gonna go with it. But who knows? This is the fun of the tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I tell you what though, but that bracket, there's one bracket that Iowa State, Illinois are all both in the same bracket. Man, like
Mm. That's who
Illinois.
they're playing each other.
Yeah, that's gonna be Illinois, Iowa State. Like that's a game that's gonna really, really turn some heads. All right, man. Let's get to this. Let's get to this next segment here. We got South Carolina. Whew, just kind of before we get to South Carolina, man, what have you been feeling so far, just overall this latest tournament? Because there's been a lot of good games.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we had a very unfortunate result when West Virginia wasn't able to pull out the upset over Iowa. That was very unfortunate. But it just is what it is. I guess we'll see another week of Iowa. That's great. But your thoughts, Ben, on everything but Iowa?
so so I wrote down here that for the most part, the ladies, the Sweet 16 is all the favorites. So 15 out of the 16 teams are between 1 through 5. There's only one that's not, which is Duke, which is a number 7 seed. So other than that, you're looking at 1s, 2s, 4s, and 5s. A lot of chalk, as they say, of course. So not a lot of upsets on the one 2 seed to get to the Sweet 16. But for the most part, the upsets have not happened. LSU was in a little bit of a game, then turned around in the second half. Iowa was in a little bit of a game, turned it on in the second half. So for the most part, there have not been upsets on the women's side. And then I wrote down this in all caps. I got a little wish list. I need Iowa and LSU to win their next game because then we get the rematch. It would be Iowa versus LSU in the Elite Eight rematch of the Final Four last year. So I need that's my little wish list. I need Iowa
Yeah,
and LSU to win. I need to see that rematch, and I think that
you need to
rematch
see LSU win.
that would get
Oh
some
yeah.
huge viewers.
Oh
Huge.
yeah, definitely. I look forward to seeing Iowa. I look forward to seeing LSU pulling that off, and Angel Reese continuing her incredible run to another national title. And I just think it was a heinous act that they did not have her in the first team All American. That's all I'm going to say on that one. I feel a type of way. Sorry, Ben. But as you were saying,
No,
sir,
no, I agree. For her not to be first team,
I
I mean,
mean,
and then
you
what
don't
is it?
even have
Isn't South Carolina at 34-0? They don't have
yeah,
one
not
person on the
one,
first team.
not
Like what the
one,
hell?
not one. And their best player is averaging like 19 and 10. She's the best player on the national champion on the undefeated. I just don't I don't get it. I'm a fan of Kim and Brink at Stanford. I think she's a very talented player. I think she had a heck of a game against Iowa, um,
Mhm.
but I don't I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. But I'll say this though: South Carolina had a very close. Well, actually, just one thing: LSU versus UCLA is not going to be an easy cakewalk. It's not going to be a cakewalk for LSU because they've been very susceptible to being upsetted in the first 2 games. They were down at half against a very good Middle Tennessee team that won 30 games, and then LSU had to go on a late run, right? UCLA is the type of team that if you're down against them, you're going to stay down. I mean, UCLA has been ranked in the top 15 all season long, so that one makes me a little bit nervous. But I'm hoping and praying for an upset. South Carolina, man, this one is going to be. They've been clearly the best team all year. Almost had an upset against Tennessee in the SEC tournament. I don't know. This team is a little bit different. Can they? Yes, but there's a lot of really good teams out there, man.
And I know that they've been obviously a 16 seed and then an 8 seed, but damn, 91-39. Like I get it, it's a 16 seed, but damn, that's over 50 points, and then turn around and spank North Carolina 88-41. Like damn, you're averaging 89-40 as your win. And I get it. It's only 2 games, small sample size, but
dominating.
I just got to say,
dominating.
Yeah, like that's insane. And 34-0 speaks for itself. And there are a lot of good teams, and we talked about it. We didn't even talk about UConn. UConn isn't going away. UConn is still there. I mean, you got to respect Paige Beckers and Gino. I mean, Gino's record stands for itself. So UConn's still in there. Just looking at the bracket real quick, you got a tough Notre Dame team, number 2. Don't know a lot about them, but a 2 seed. You got them still involved. You got Iowa. You got LSU. If LSU were to lose, you got UCLA as a 2 seed. Like you got a lot of competition, a lot
USC.
of teams.
Yeah, and especially and USC. Juju Watkins, got to give her a shout out, because I think when it's all said and done, I think she's going to be better than Caitlin Clark. I think she's already going to break all the records. She's already broken Caitlin Clark's freshman scoring record. And honestly, I think she's better than Caitlin Clark already. But I digress on that. Juju Watkins is a player that deserves huge notoriety and is just an exceptionally talented player on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, for sure. And we could, if they win and UConn wins, that's your Elite 8 matchup, USC versus UConn. That would be a game too.
Do you realize that this UConn team has 5 scholarship players out with season-ending injuries, and they still went 28-5 and won the Big East and went undefeated?
I mean,
like,
do we need to say coaching matters? Like
come on,
coaching matters.
Come on,
like for real.
Even if he never wins a national title, the fact that every single year they're winning 30 games and haven't lost more than 5 games, like ever. It's 5.
It's impeccable.
5 scholarship players. You only usually keep 12, so you're probably running 7 players, if that. Glad Paige Buchers has come back. But question: does South Carolina win it all, sir?
I'm gonna go with yes. I'm gonna say that they finish it out. What they need, they need 4 more wins, right? So yeah, so you need 6 when you get into the tournament. They got 2, so they need 4 more. So they'd finish it off if they did it 38-0.
And it's crazy to think that they were undefeated last year and lost to that one team with that one player that we won't name, but they probably would have beat LSU.
Yeah.
I'm just saying they could have had, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Let's continue on with this one. I think USC or South Carolina is going to win it. That one's going to be a good one, man. But the Shohei Ohtani controversy, man, there is just. Well, have you finally read up on it? Let me ask you that. You finally read up on it?
I did, but I want you know more than me on this one, so I want you to lead it off.
Listen, I get where they're saying, well, we don't know if he betted on baseball, but here are the facts. His interpreter only makes $500,000 a year. Okay. He was able to get a line of credit for more than $5 to $6 million from a bookie. Now, why would a bookie give this guy that type of credit if he knew that this guy only made that amount of money? Clearly, there was a backer of this. Gambling is illegal in California. There's an IRS investigation on this interpreter. There's a federal investigation. And then allegedly Ohtani transferred $4 million to help this guy pay off his debts. I think Ohtani did it. I think he's guilty of it. There's just something really shady about it. And I think Ohtani's eventually going to get banned. And you better bring back Pete Rose. I'm just going to keep it that simple. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's like his denials yesterday. Of course, I mean, what do you expect him to do? You think he's gonna just be like, "Yeah, it was all me. I don't want to play baseball anymore. I did it." Like, of course, right? So he's not gonna do that. But like I said in the group chat, there are people who have been accused of something that will deny it, not aggressively. I was like, "Yeah, I didn't do it," or you know what I mean? Like, not. And I get it, it's another language, but still, we can see what words he said. It can be translated. We know what he said. And he was very adamant that he had nothing to do with it. Now, is he lying? That's we shall find out. But to me, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, Lance Armstrong was very, very adamant for years that he didn't cheat. Alex Rodriguez, pretty strong-willed, saying he never did anything for a while. And then more
Andy Pettit.
recently, and then Ryan Braun, same thing. Never did it, and they all turned out to be liars. So does that mean Ohtani will fall into that? Possibly. But for me, it's kind of like one of those things like, how could you know nothing? You might not have been heavily involved, but it's hard for me to say that you were completely oblivious and you had no idea what was going on. Like I can't come to that conclusion. Now, will the facts ultimately lead to that conclusion? We can't say it's impossible. We can say we both don't believe it, but at this point, we can't say for 100% certainty he's not innocent because it could come out that way. But I think we're both alluding to the fact we don't think that he's completely innocent.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a dude that just signed a $700 million contract. And when you have this kind of money from different countries, like he has money, that are in stocks, I'm sure, in different places. He has revenue coming from all sorts of things. Like you have to have a business manager or someone that is managing your money, that is managing your day-to-day activities. Like
Mm.
Atani is more than just a baseball player. He's an icon. He represents something so much bigger than just the game. He is a hero to many people in the Asian
Mhm.
community. And you know, um, the commissioner
Mhm.
does not want this to be tainted on his watch.
Mhm.
and
Yep.
and, and
Yep.
this and this betting thing, right, I think goes into a bigger discussion of sports, because there have been also some allegations with players throwing games because of betting.
Mhm.
The sports did it to themselves when they decided to go to bed with the devil, that is the betting industry. And when you allow that to happen, these type of things could potentially happen. You got the Footprint Center here in Phoenix, where there's literally an opportunity for you to gamble right inside the arena. I'm just saying, this is what you guys wanted.
Mhm. I
I'm
mean,
just saying,
the leagues are, we can say consistently, leagues are addicted to money,
right?
and they will chase as many dollars as they can get. And
Exactly.
and there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but there comes some consequences with that. And when betting is as readily available and as accessible as like it is like everywhere, like
It's a problem.
like that Toronto Raptors player, he these things are gonna keep happening because like how could they not? It's so easy to place. Anybody could place a bet now. It's so easy. I mean, ESPN has their own ESPN bet now. You don't even
They
have
have a
to go on
show.
it. You don't even have to go
Doug,
anywhere else. You could just go on
Doug,
ESPN bet.
they have a show. They literally have a show that is on ESPN2 of cats that are dead. They're like they're betting analysts. Like again, like I'm not against betting. I'm not against, but I just think that they should have been maybe separate entities. and not immersing yourself into that because the Donahue, whatever the hell his name is, the
Tim
Donahue
Donahue.
situation, I mean, that's a big deal. And I would
Mm-hmm.
not be surprised if there were not players that were either fixing games or doing something to maybe alter the result of a game. It's
Yeah.
happened in the past, and there's no way in hell that this has not happened now. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You've been living in
And it might not even be their bet. It could be their brother. It could be their sister. It could be whoever
exactly.
it is. It might not even be their bet exactly, but they're helping somebody win a bet. And then
I think
somebody, then somebody would be like, "Hey, I won 100,000. Here's 5,000. Thank you very much."
yeah, you know what crazy is? You know what kills me, and then we'll go to the NFL rule. This is kind of actually the perfect segue into the NFL rule changes. I feel these sports, these guys are almost too smart for their own good. You know what I mean? Like, let's change the kickoff. Let's change. Let's adopt. Let's adopt something from one of our competitors. That's acknowledging. That's acknowledging that something is working on their product. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But your thoughts on NFL rule change? You see what I'm saying? Like you're acknowledging. You're like I'm
but at the same time, if it works, it works. To be honest, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter where you got it from. To be honest, I mean, it's not like the XFL is going to take over the NFL. Like clearly, that's not going to happen.
No.
But I get your point. You're acknowledging that something in a competitor league is working. Yeah. But for me, I think it's actually a good thing because there likely will be more kickoff returns. And of course, based upon how it's set up, it's not everyone running fast speed like we saw, DeMar Hamlin, that wasn't the kickoff. Never mind. But still, those injuries, those spinal cord injuries that happen I was thinking of a different Buffalo Bills player from a while back. I can't think of his name. That did happen on a kickoff. Eric, the dude from went to Rutgers, Eric LeGrand or something like that. Anyways, the chances of an injury on a kickoff happening the way that they are doing it now in the XFL and now they're going to do it in the NFL is lessened because you got the guy kicking the ball and you got the returner, or you can have two returners back there. They're the only ones who can move until the returner catches the ball. So then you got the other guys, lined up, at the 40 and the 35, and they're kind of positioned that way. So I think that ultimately the league wants to see more kickoff returns. I think that it was like 18% this year. And
get back to what it was before.
But at the same time, if they're kicking it from the same spot, aren't the touchbacks going to still happen?
Yeah,
they didn't move back. To my understanding, they didn't move back where the kickers are kicking it. So if the kickers are booting out of the end zone, where does it matter where you put everybody?
Yeah, like that one, I'm not tripping on too much. I think it's the other one with the tackling.
Yep.
The hip
tackle.
Like football. Look, we're trying to make an unsafe sport safe. Okay, football is not a safe sport. So you could put everything that you want, but I'm just not a fan of them removing that tackle. I think it's gonna benefit the offense mightily. I think defenders are gonna have a very hard time. I just think defenders are gonna. I don't know. But I don't know, man. I think you got to be careful because you don't want to taint the product, and I feel the product was already tainted going into last season. Right? There was some really bad football last year, really bad, and I just have a feeling it's gonna get worse.
Yeah, it's hard for these defenders who have used this. Let's say they're rookies. Let's say they're 22. Well, let's say they've played football since they were 8. Let's say that's 15 years of using this tackle potentially. And if you're 30 years old, that's 20 years of potentially using this tackle. It's a long time that your body has been trained physically to do it a certain way. And then you have to then you're like, oh, I can't do that anymore. And then you know what happens in game time? Like
Yeah.
when you're like, oh, I used to tackle this way. Oh, on, because you're trying to think about how to tackle him, and the guy then by the time you decide, he's past you. Because you might go in, your body's trained a certain way. Oh crap, I can't do it that way anymore. And by the time you react in real time, it might be too late. So it definitely favors the offense for sure. It is having to do with some major injuries that happened. Mark Andrews last year, Tony Pollard in the playoffs against the Niners. There are some, pretty serious injuries that have happened on these tackles, but to your point, like it's a very physical sport. There's
That's
gonna
what I'm
be
saying.
there's always
Like,
injuries. I mean, look at all the non-contact injuries. Like it
that's what I'm
happens.
saying.
Like there's
Like
injuries all the time.
right? Like teach offensive players to do an extra stiff arm, or if they feel they're going to get tackled, like just take a dot, like just fall to the ground. You're like if you're really fearful of that, and like football, there's going to be injuries. Like you said, someone's going to get tackled the right way, their lung could collapse. I mean, Damar Hamlin, like it was a freak accident, a once in a thousand. Like I don't know. I don't know.
But what rule is going to prevent that from happening? Like it's impossible. There's certain things that human bodies are human bodies, and they're gonna get injured. They're gonna have these respiratory, like it's gonna happen.
Exactly.
Like
Makes no sense.
you can't just.
Yeah.
I feel like they're getting to a point where they're over regulating,
Yep.
and
Exactly.
the defense is probably like, can you make a change that benefits us?
Thanks.
Can you help us out? Like everything you do favors the offense. Can you just help us out? Give us like one thing, something.
Exactly. But let's get back to this one, man. Let's before we get back to your little spiel. I want to throw something out here about these about just NBA. Golden State.
Mm-hmm.
I want to finish up on Golden State.
What about Golden
State? The dynasty's over. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs because I think the Rockets are going to catch up to them. I think they're only like a game, 2 games out. The question is,
even. I'm just looking at it right now. It's only a half game
okay.
now. Yeah, because the Warriors have lost 2 in a row, and the Rockets have won 9 in a row. And right now, it's only a half game difference right now.
Exactly. So, is this run? Is it over? Is it over for them? Do we give them any additional juice?
And you have to think, did they make a mistake not trading either Clay or Draymond or both? Because
I would have traded both, but
now you're probably gonna lose Clay to free agency because you're probably not gonna pay him because he's clearly not what he was. I mean, a lot of severe injuries, and he's older. So he's never going to be what he was, understandably. I mean, dude's had some very severe injuries, and he's in his high 30s, I think like 34, 35. And they say, you've heard the saying many times, all good things come to an end. They had it, and for them, it wasn't even a good thing. It was a great thing. It was a great run.
4 titles.
Ultimately, it comes to an end. I mean, look at the Patriots once Brady left, of course. But then look at in the NBA, the Spurs, after all them big names retired and Kawhi left, they've been in the crapper, and it's cyclical. These things happen. And for Golden State, it's like, but also I'm thinking about it like this too. I'm going to throw our Lakers into the mix here and by this. So I think even if Golden State makes it and let's say they hold positions 9 and 10, and that's the matchup. Well, guess what? Who you're facing in the first round? You're going against Denver. You got to play the 1 seed. Like we keep talking about, all these shows keep talking about who's gonna make a more deep run, the Lakers, the Warriors. Bro, if they're playing the 1 seed, they're not winning. I don't care if it's the Timberwolves, the Thunder, the Nuggets, and the way the Nuggets are playing is gonna be the Nuggets anyways. So, like, you're not beating either of those teams is not beating the Nuggets. There's absolutely 0% chance. So does it really matter? Like you're the 9 seed or the 10 seed, so you win that play-in game, and then you have to win another game to even make it. And then you're the 8 seed, and in the Lakers case, they play the Nuggets, they're probably getting swept. It's like 9 games in a row the Nuggets have won. So like this whole talk about who's going to go further in the playoffs, the Lakers, the Warriors, it's been on shows for
Neither
like
one of them.
the last month.
Yeah.
Exactly. None of them.
Yeah.
Neither one. Because the Lakers are almost impossible for them to move up to the 6th seed. Sacramento is a full 3 games up on them.
Yeah.
The Lakers are all over the place. So the Lakers are not going to move up much. They're probably locked into that 9 seed. And then they're going to get spanked in the first round if they make it to play the 1 seed. Like,
and I mean, dog, like teams are who they are at this point. Like they are who they are. The Lakers are just an average team, and that's okay. LeBron and AD have played a considerable amount of basketball this year, so there's not that magic pill like last year. Was like, but no, that's not going to happen this year. Like it's not.
Especially if they got to play the Nuggets. There's no chance. There's no
the
chance.
only thing that they can hope, the only thing is if they somehow match up with OKC. Because I think they match up very well with them because of their size, and I think they would obliterate them in 6 games. But anybody else, I don't know.
They ain't beating the Nuggets.
I just got to say one more final thing. The Phoenix Suns are not winning a championship. They have been a horrendous embarrassment to basketball. All that money, and I said from the very beginning that Bradley Beal was not the right move, and I still stand by that statement.
Yeah, and let's be honest. I mean, I don't think people really have had this conversation that often, but it's gonna come up more often. Now, Kevin Durant has never been to a conference finals without Curry and Golden State.
Legacy concerns.
Sorry. Let's be honest. Let me correct that. Way in the beginning, he made the NBA Finals
2012
when Russ and him were young. But since then, they've never made a conference finals. Since he went to Golden State, and then once he left Golden State, he's never appeared in a conference finals.
Here's what I'm going to say.
Like that has to be. That has to be part of your resume. Has to be.
Yeah, like I think that Kevin Durant is a top 20 player of all time, but it's beginning to make it harder and harder for me to even have him in the top 15. Him even being in the top 20, I still think is a testament to his greatness because there's been so many players, and to be considered one of the top 20, I still think is an honor. But the fact that you left OKC to go to Golden State, a team that won 73 games, and yes, you were the 2-time, MVP, right? Like I get that. But that narrative of what has he done since he left them, he really hasn't done. I mean, he's a great scorer. He is. He's a phenomenal offensive talent, but I can never put him in the top 10 or even top 15 of all time unless he wins a championship outside of Golden State.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but let's go back. I want to go back to what he was talking about like a month ago about leadership and how he leads in a different way and this and that. It's like, well, what do you bring besides your excellent basketball skill? Because to me, if you had those leadership qualities, you would have been able to get Kyrie a little bit more in line. You would have been able, and I understand Kyrie is a whole nother animal, but he could have went. I mean, as close of friends as they are, he could have went to a man-to-man. You need to cut this out. And Kyrie, given the respect he has for Durant, probably would have, and it might have been a little bit different. But that conversation never happened because Durant does not want any type of controversy and does not want. And to me, it's like, if you were this leader that you are saying that you are, people lead in different ways, wouldn't we see it? Wouldn't there be some results proving that you are this leader that you're claiming to be? For me, you know exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get a phenomenal basketball player. He's going to get you 30 points like that. You know exactly what you're getting from Kevin Durant. But to me, you're not getting more than that. You're getting an amazing basketball player, and that's all you're getting from my
That's why the
perspective.
Suns are struggling, and that's why the Suns are struggling because Devin Booker's not a leader, Bradley Beal's not a leader, Nurkic is not a leader, and then you got that coach there. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of his, but anywho, all right, sir, let's take it away. Ben gets loud. Get loud, sir.
All right. So I gotta go. I'm gonna get a little personal with my squad here, the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm gonna
Okay.
go lay into Mr. Jerry Jones because somebody got to do it. So the one thing I will preface it by saying the whole narrative of they haven't won in 30 years because of Jerry Jones, which is what the media has said and what 90% of people believe. I'm not in that camp. So I'm just gonna put that out there. I've said that many times. He's not on the field. He's not the one playing, not performing in the playoffs, which is what they've been doing. But I can criticize him for this being all in and saying, not even the all in comment, but saying in many interviews, before I die, I want another Super Bowl. I'll do anything I can to get another Super Bowl. I'll do this. Like I desperately want another Super Bowl. It's like, Jerry, actions speak louder than words. And you are a great marketer. You're a great seller. You're great at even manipulating the fans. 95% of the fans are manipulated by what you say and believe what you say. So you're gonna give credit where credit's due. He's an amazing salesman and is amazing at kind of making people believe things that are not actually true, but being very steadfast in them and making people believe that that's what he's gonna do. So if you are all in and you want that championship more than anything else in the world, which is what you've said on many occasions, Mike McCarthy should have been fired on Monday. Frankly, I joked about it at the time, but I was sort of serious. I kind of wanted a varsity blues situation to happen with a team in the locker room be like, listen, we're not going back out there if you're going back out there. Like literally, like I was like, can we get a varsity blues moment here in the NFL? Like everyone tell McCarthy to go home now. We don't need you. We're gonna fire you in 24 hours anyways. So let's just see if we can play the second half better than what we did. But honestly, okay, that's not gonna happen. That's an impossible situation. But there's no scenario where McCarthy should have had that job past Monday. Should have been fired on Monday. No
Should
doubt
have gotten
about it.
fired the year before. But
Exactly. But so McCarthy still being the head coach is extremely frustrating, and especially when you had forget Belichick, you had Mike Vrabel out there, you had Belichick, you had Pete Carroll, you had some big names you could have got, and
that's what I'm saying.
all who probably would have taken the job. Like the Cowboys name, the Cowboy, like imagine, like for Belichick's standpoint, imagine, all and Dak Prescott hasn't won jack shit in the playoffs. Then he goes to Dallas, and let's just say they do win. So he's not only proven necessarily he can win without Brady, he's changed the narrative of Dak Prescott at the same time. You're telling me he wouldn't be motivated to do that? He wouldn't accept that job offer if it came his way? And the same with
Ben,
Vrabel. Vrabel loves coaching, and he's a great coach. You call him up to take that job, Vrabel's taking it like that.
there are certain types of coaches that have the ability to elevate players to different levels. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Dak Prescott has had that. Right? Like
no.
I still think Dak Prescott needs to take some accountability for his performances in the postseason. But man, during the regular season, this last year, even the year that he had those horrific interceptions, the man still threw for over 4,000 yards. I mean, he's a walking 30 touchdowns, 4,000 yards every single season.
And even that interception year, they led the NFL in points.
So
they were still scoring. They were still scoring.
So I really think that it's about, okay, if you're going to keep Dak Prescott, who's going to be the person that's going to have a great defense? I keep that intact. I maybe get like another receiver here or maybe add a tackle here. but who's going to be the person to be able to bring Dak Prescott to another level? Because this is a team that won back-to-back 12 wins, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
this is not a scrubby team. And you look at how the
Yeah.
Eagles
Yeah.
performed last year. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
damn, like jump at it,
Yeah,
because
but that's part of it too. We've known for months that you needed to redo Dak's contract, you needed to get Micah's contract done, and you needed to get CD Lamb's contract done. Everybody has known that for several months, and none of those three things has happened yet. Like,
yeah,
what are you doing? You
yeah,
know you
no,
need
it's
to do
frustrating.
you know you need to do those contracts because everybody knows that, and it's
Yeah,
inhibiting your ability to sign people right now.
no doubt, no
Like
doubt.
it's just
Yeah,
it's
I
just
mean, trust me,
I just have a
I
message for
get it.
95% of the Cowboys fans who are still manipulated by Jerry Jones.
Hey,
Learn your
I
lesson.
get it.
Learn
I
your
get it.
lesson.
I get it, man. Listen, I'm right there with you, man. But sir, it was fun to get back, chop it up with you. It's going to be some very interesting games. This one against Houston for my Duke Blue Devils is going to be.
That's a
I
good
don't
one.
know where that's going to go. I really don't. Houston could just like, you know what, we're going to go ham and just blow out Duke. Duke's got to attack first if they're going to win that one. In North
And
Carolina,
Alabama, North Carolina, that's another good one right there. And then
I
to your
got
point, you talked about Illinois and Ohio State and Iowa State for a long time. So
that.
you got
That's
me heavily intrigued in that game.
dude, that one is Iowa State and Illinois are two phenomenally athletic, deep, and physical teams, man. Iowa State is just really, really impressive. And they blew out Houston in the Big 12 championship. Like, I
Oh
would
yeah.
not be surprised if they made a run and won the title. I would not. But
Yeah,
we'll
you
see.
got me. The way you were talking about
The-
those two teams, I'm
oh,
heavily
yeah.
paying attention to that game.
Oh, yeah.
Although it does interfere with North Carolina, so I'll be mainly focused on the North Carolina game, but still I'll be flipping back and forth
All
for
right.
sure.
Sounds good. But all right, folks, that is all for episode 125. Appreciate all the support. Seeing all the eyes at the top here, we're getting the views. I love it. I love the support. So we definitely do. Thank you guys and check us out on Twitter. Until next time, peace and love. Take care.
Peace.